Shalom, shalom, everybody. Shalom. Good morning, good morning. Welcome back to Reading with Shilo. We're gonna try this again, man. We're gonna try this again. The next edition of Reading with Shilo. My neck hurt. So I started reading BARAK and DEBORAH United yesterday, but I didn't have a good feed. I didn't have a good connection with YouTube. So we're going to try to read it again today. We're going to read chapter 1 and chapter 2. And if everything goes well with chapter 1 and chapter 2, we'll come back later on today and read chapter 3 and chapter 4. So YouTube, you have my undivided attention today. So we're reading BARAK and DEBORAH United by Mary L.WINDSOR and Dr. Rudolph R.WINDSOR. I'm not going to go through all the stuff I went through yesterday for Facebook and YouTube, but we will go through some. All right. Where to start? I will read. All right. Within these pages, we can just jump right into it because we're going to see how it works. I don't want to lollygag around. Within these pages, there is an important message for our generations. The need for excellent leadership is paramount in our neighborhoods. However, in order to acquire this good leadership, certain qualities are essential, such as love and service. These are the words of Dr. Cornel West and Tavis Smiley. Because of the terrible situations that face our nation and our people today, good leaders must display a lot of love, dedication, and service. This means that the would-be good leaders must come down off of their ivory towers and get their feet muddy and scarred in the battlefield of life if we really intend to reduce improper guidance, poverty, crime, and ignorance among our youth. It is too dangerous to wait for others to solve our problems. The responsibility devolves upon us. This book helps to point us in the direction of how this can be accomplished. Oh man, my neck hurts. All right. Like 3 pages of characters. All right. The foreword. The subject of this novel is predicated on Hebrew ancient records as the following: the 4th and 5th chapters of the book of Judges and other historical records of this time period. Some characters and events appear as they are given in this primary source. However, there are some that are the creation of the author's imagination. This was done so that they could give the readers an absorbing and entertaining story that would come alive in their minds. In order that they could bring to you the flavor of that time, the authors consulted with a variety of historical records pertaining to this period. We sincerely hope that they have fulfilled your expectations. Social critics, including Aristotle, believe that a novel should instruct mankind in right action. The authors believe that the moral principles set forth in this novel can benefit the present generation and uplift our world. Now sit back and relax and enjoy what the authors have shared with you. And when you have gained something worthy from these pages, let your light shine by sharing this knowledge with others. Woo-wee. Chapter 1. Chapter 1. Palestine, 1350 to 1125 BC. The Lady Deborah, a spiritual woman, arose early from her bed with mixed feelings in anticipation of the arrival of an unusual visitor. She sat in her bedchamber thinking of how handsome he was with those gorgeous, seductive dark brown eyes. On this cloudy, chilly morning, she thought about her late husband who was murdered by the Canaanites over 3 years ago. His death had caused her much emotional pain. Now, she sat there waiting for the arrival of BARAK, whose primary mission is to fight the Canaanites. Would the same thing happen to him? She wondered. She became troubled and chills ran down her spine. Deborah, a woman in her late 30s, quickly got dressed in her white silk dress decorated with purple and gold borders around the neckline, the bodice, and sleeves. The dress was long and loose. However, because she had a pleasing figure, it emphasized her shape in all the right places. At that moment, Deborah felt as if she wanted some fresh air and company. Therefore, she called for her handmaid, who also functioned as her personal scribe. Sarah, come here, please. Sarah was fair-skinned, had blue eyes, was of mixed ancestry, and she could write and speak Hebrew, Aramaic, and the Egyptian languages. Excuse me. Yes, my lady. I want you to walk with me outside to get some fresh air. Certainly, Sarah replied. Oh, I like the way your purple linen shawl covers your long braids and shoulders. The shawl contrasted well with her white dress and pretty chestnut brown skin. My lady, are you expecting a visitor today? Yes, I am. At that moment, Deborah rubbed the prominent bridge of her nose and squeezed her nostrils, which stood out slightly. Why do you ask? Because you are dressed up so special today, like a princess. As they walked through the huge door made of cedar wood, Deborah said, well, after all, I am expecting a prince. Then they passed through the iron gate of the courtyard. Sarah turned around to her. I believe you are serious. Could he be the prince from Moab, Syria, or from our southern neighbor, Egypt? Deborah looked at her with surprise. No, Sarah, don't be silly. He's from the Hebrew tribe of Naphtali. They walked out to the main road, which was about 60 cubits from her house. As they walked along the pebbled walkway, she passed by red and purple lilies that bloomed every spring. Have I ever met or seen this prince? Asked Sarah. I don't think. Deborah paused and then continued. Yes, we met him in the city of Bethel last year. At that time, one of the elders introduced him to us. His name is BARAK ben Abiniam. Hey, do you mean General BARAK, the commander of the Hebrew army in northern Israel? Yes, that's the man. He is devilishly handsome. He was devilishly handsome. As they approached the road, Deborah could see people in caravans, no doubt, going to Jerusalem, Syria, Tyre, Egypt, and Ethiopia. But there was no BARAK. This was the north-south main road that passed through the land of Canaan, later called Israel, and therefore renamed Palestine. And thereafter renamed Palestine. This road was not far from the Jordan River and ran parallel to it. People in caravans traveled this road to go to Egypt and Arabia, to Jerusalem, Shechem, Bethel, Galilee, Syria, and to other northern cities. This is the road that BARAK will use when he comes to visit Deborah. Deborah expected his arrival because she received a letter from him a week ago, stating that he would arrive today after leaving Hebron. Then she closed her eyes, and she saw an image of him. He was tall, had brown skin, a thick black beard, and a turban-like wrap on his head. He had broad shoulders and a strong square jaw. Deborah, are you all right? Asked Sarah, seeing her standing there with her eyes closed. Yes, Sarah, all is well. All is well. I was just thinking about BARAK. Deborah remained still, wondering whether he was yet lean and muscular, or had he gotten fat around the belly, rump, and thighs like some other men. As moments passed, Sarah said, look, Deborah looked up the road facing northward towards Bethel and saw a group of people approaching. They looked like little children in comparison to the high mountain on the side of the road, on this side of the road. Sarah, I have a suspicion that those people are coming to visit us, commented Deborah, as she adjusted her purple sash around her thin waist. It is possible. We receive visitors at least 3 or 4 times a week. Maybe they are from the city of Bethel. Deborah and her handmaid began to walk slowly back to the house because they wanted to be there whenever anyone would arrive. Deborah turned her head and gazed at the fresh green grass growing beyond the walkway. As Deborah walked back to her house, she thought, since the death of my husband over 3 years ago, I haven't been involved with any man. She concluded that Barak could possibly be the beginning of a new relationship. However, she remembered that he expressed a disinterest in spiritual matters. Nevertheless, she was still attracted to him. In view of this dilemma, the situation left her uncertain about him. Finally, the group of people who Deborah saw coming turned off the road and came up her walkway. There were a few men, but most of the people were women. From the steps where Deborah stood, she could discern from the faces of the women that their hearts were full of grief, and she went back into the house. As the ladies approached the gate, they saw baskets of food along the courtyard wall. The wall was plastered with white lime, which gave it a clean appearance. Then the spokesman of the group stepped forward briskly and greeted Nakshan, the gatekeeper. Peace, my brother. We come to meet with Mother Deborah, the prophetess. Nakshan was a very tall, muscular man of almost 7 feet and approximately 285 pounds, with a powerful appearance. He served as a gallant warrior in the army of Shamgar, the last deliverer of Israel. You have a meeting with Deborah? He asked hesitantly, stepping in front of her. I have no knowledge of such a meeting between you. This matter is urgent, Rachel interrupted him, raising her eyes glaringly. Then she placed her hands on her hips and spoke defiantly. I'm not afraid of you, you big. I was raised with 8 brothers. Now please step aside. I see that you are a tough lady, responded Nakshan, moving slightly. Raising 7 children by myself, I had to be tough. Let the ladies in, Nakshan, Deborah advised her gatekeeper as she looked through the window. The ladies must be tired after a long journey. Let them rest their feet and give them some fresh water and fruit. I'll be out in a short while. Yes, Mother Deborah. He gave a slight bow. Immediately, Nakshan escorted the ladies into the courtyard where they sat down under the 3 palm trees that stood in the center. The floor of the courtyard was made from stone slabs. Also, there was a large stone table situated up to the side of the courtyard. This is where Deborah sat when she listened to the complaints of disputants and gave counsel. In addition, the tribal leaders, elders, priests, and princes sat here with her when they convened to discuss tribal affairs. It became a custom for Deborah to receive visitors on a regular basis. They came to seek expert advice, to obtain spiritual counseling, and to hear her interpretation and judgment on civil and criminal matters. On this particular morning, she was not expecting this group of ladies. However, Deborah was not surprised because she usually receives unannounced visitors. Besides taking care of communal matters, Deborah operated a wick factory that she inherited over 3 years ago from her late husband. She gave last-minute detailed instructions to Medrich, the supervisor of her workers, and turned to her handmaid. Oh, Sarah, did I receive a letter from Caleb? No, you did not, my lady. I wonder why it's taking my brother-in-law so long to write me, she muttered as she went out to listen to the patient group of ladies. As she walked with her handmaid into the courtyard, she looked over at the gates to see if Barak had come. but he was not there. She greeted the women with a big smile and said, "Peace be unto you." Deborah's eyes registered warmth with eager gladness. "Welcome. It is so nice to meet all of you." The anxious ladies responded in kind. After Rachel introduced everyone, Deborah asked, "What tribes are you from?" "We are from Zebulun, Manasseh, Naphtali, and Issachar, the northern tribes." "That is a beautiful region, my sisters. How can I be of service to you today?" inquired Deborah sympathetically as she raised her small dark brown eyes. "This is our problem," answered Rachel, turning slowly towards Deborah. "Most of us have lost husbands who have been taken by Sisera, the evil Canaanite. We don't know if they are alive or they are living or dead. Our children are growing up without fathers, and they cry and ask about them constantly. We don't know what to tell them. Also, we miss the companionship of our husbands. You understand, don't you?" Deborah lowered her head in silence and brought her hands together. She felt the pain and loneliness of the ladies because she also could empathize with them. She thought about her own lack of compassion due to the death of her husband over 3 years ago. She raised her head up slowly, looked at all of them, and said, "Yes, I understand. I also lost a husband. After his death, all the responsibility fell on me, just as it has fallen on you." "But Prophetess Deborah, you can marry again," commented one of the younger ladies with tears in her eyes. "We can't. We don't know whether our husbands are dead or alive. We feel trapped. What can we do, Deborah?" The vehement passionate pleading of the ladies struck Deborah like a thunderbolt. At that moment, she wanted to be very still and meditate. Her face became extremely solemn. She closed her eyes and lowered her head. The courtyard became uncommonly quiet, like the stillness of the night. The only sound that was heard was the chirping of a blackbird on the frond of one of the palm trees. After a short period of meditation, Deborah raised her head, opened her eyes, took a deep breath, and smiled at the ladies. As Deborah turned her head slightly to the right, she saw a handsome, rugged-looking man with a straight, broad nose. He was over 6 feet tall, solidly built, standing by the courtyard gate near her gatekeeper, Nakshan. When he caught Deborah's eyes, the stranger smiled and nodded his head at her. She knew who he was. He was BARAK, the man for whom she was waiting. Then her thoughts returned to her female guests. "This is what the Lord has said to me, ladies. Be patient. Maintain your integrity and loyalty to God and to your husbands. Pray and meditate day and night. Go back to your tribes. Tell your people to pour out their souls in sincerity to the Lord your God, and he will hear your cry just as he heard the cry of our ancestors in the land of Egypt." "But will we see our dear husbands again?" inquired another young lady. "Yes, I'm getting a strong feeling that most of you will be reunited with your husbands." Deborah looked subtly at BARAK. Then he smiled again and gave her a double nod of his head as though he was giving her his special approval for something. She couldn't help noticing his well-trimmed black beard and mustache, which had gotten a little gray. He trimmed his beard the way she liked her man to wear it. Suddenly, she began to feel a little uneasy, and she became momentarily distracted. She quickly regained her composure and looked at the ladies. "Some of us have been separated from our husbands for more than 5 years. Do you have any idea when we shall be reunited with them?" asked Rachel with fluttering eyes. Deborah continued, "Your husbands will be free next year in the sabbatical year, when we let the land rest and cancel all debts. Pertaining to this, I feel very strongly and you can be assured of this." Rachel rose to her feet. "Deborah, when I first came through your gate early this morning, I saw baskets of various kinds of fruits. What is this food for?" Deborah looked up. "I thought you knew. It's for the poor. It is for the poor. Yes, Rachel. It is an old custom of ours to give to the poor, to the widows, to the blind, to the orphans, and to the strangers. Have you forgotten this? I guess times are hard for us right now, and I haven't thought about it lately, replied Rachel, as she lowered her head. At that moment, Deborah moved a few steps closer to the ladies and said, I want all of you to give more to the poor. When you give, it will return to you manyfold. This is universal law. Remember, this is what Moses meant when he said, if you keep these commandments, all these blessings will come upon thee. But Mother Deborah, when I donate, I feel that I am losing something, said the middle-aged man. My brother, you shouldn't feel that way. When you give today, remember, she said, it will come back to you in the future. Do you have a barley or wheat field? Yes, I have a small barley field. The man answered slowly. What are you getting at, Deborah? When you plant a field of barley seeds, the barley will multiply unto you 1,000-fold at harvest time. The same thing will happen for you when you give to mankind. O Deborah, how can I receive a blessing when a poor man is not able to repay me? Deborah smiled and continued, the ways of the Lord are righteous and beyond our understanding. Don't always expect your reward to come from the poor. Your blessing quite often may come from another source or from another person. Remember this, when your blessings come from another source, they will be, in most cases, greater in value than if you have received it from the poor man. The man smiled. You give a very good answer, Mother Deborah. Finally, Rachel asked, how can I give what I don't have? At that moment, Deborah walked over to Rachel and took her by the hand. You have good health. That is all I have. That's a lot, Deborah assured her. There are many ways you can give. Rachel, if you have a slice of bread, then divide it and give to the poor. Another way of giving is by giving of yourself. Give your time, a helpful hand, your genuine interest, your conversation, and above all, give your sincere love. This is the greatest gift you can offer. When you do this, you will bring great joy to the hearts of others. In giving joy to others, you will experience great joy for yourself. After listening attentively, Rachel stepped forward and leaned her head on Deborah's shoulder and remarked, your words have very deep meaning, Mother Deborah. Where did you get all of your knowledge? I received it from the Lord and from our sacred books and traditions. Some of it I received from my uncle Yoetz, who was a senior member of the Council of 70 Elders at the Tabernacle. Also, some I learned from the sages who came with the caravans from India, the Nile Valley, and Ethiopia. Rachel stood back a little and said, we admire you so much, Deborah. You are truly God sent. Thank you so much. You have been a great help to us. Now we must be on our way. Deborah then hugged all the ladies and kissed them on their cheeks. When Rachel turned toward the gate, Deborah asked her softly and quietly, have you ever seen that tall man near the entrance? Rachel took one step forward and stopped. She placed her finger over her lower lip and chin as if she was in deep thought. He looks familiar. Oh, that's the Prince BARAK from the tribe of Naphtali. Yes, I thought you would recognize him. He is from up your way. Are you interested in him? Asked Rachel nonchalantly. That's a big question. I'm not sure, said Deborah in a low tone. I've met him only once before. Put out the bait and the fly will bite, Deborah. The fly has done just that. Well, good luck, said Rachel, as she walked slowly away. Have a safe return and may peace be with you, commented Deborah, glancing at the entire guests. As the women departed through the large iron gate, they touched the mezuzah on the gate. This object was intended to remind everyone passing through the gate to remember the commandments of the Lord. Chapter 2. Oh, man. I'm cooking my neck, man. Chapter 2. Chapter 2. In the mind of Deborah, the time moved quickly, and a mixture of joy, uncertainty, and expectation. Nakshan, the gatekeeper, introduced Barak to Deborah. Barak wore a white turban-like wrap on his head, and on it was a gold-braided band. Around his waist, he wore a 6-inch wide black girdle belt with a sheath for his 18-inch long dagger. It is a great pleasure to see you again, Deborah, Barak said, with an admiring smile. You look so beautiful, and with that gorgeous bracelet, you look like a Cushite queen. Thank you, Barak, for your kind words. She looked at his short white dashiki with the neckline and sleeves trimmed in gold and commented, also, I like the tunic you're wearing. Thank you. By the way, I've heard many good things about you, Barak remarked as he adjusted his girdle belt, which held his white pantaloons in place. Oh, is that so? She responded. Then she led the way to the 2 stone benches near the wall. As Barak walked across the small carpet, he noticed it had a picture of a green palm tree and a yellow sunset against the blue sky. Oh, what a beautiful carpet you have. Where did you get it? Deborah looked down at the carpet and said, I purchased it from the merchant of an Egyptian camel caravan several years ago, and I'm thinking about buying another one. Barak looked up at her with a smile on his face. Deborah, did you know that the carpet is bought by the cubit yard and is worn out by the feet? Deborah chuckled with delight. Is this your manner to make humor? She asked, feeling at ease. Yes, sometimes. It depends upon the mood. Well, stay in that mood. It is pleasing in my eyesight. Barak, you were about to tell me what the people are saying about me. Oh, yes. The reports which I hear from the region are that you are an excellent counselor and a good listener. Well, it is surely nice to hear the good tidings, she said, with delight as the warm sun shined through the moving white clouds. Then she stared again with admiration at his dark green vest trimmed with gold fringes, embroidered around the borders. Is there more, Barak? Barak raised his head and appeared to be in deep thought. Recently, when I was in the city of Beersheba, I heard a group of people say that you could become the next leader in Israel, like Ehud or Ethniel. Well, that's interesting. We shall see what the Lord has in store for me. Tell me, Prince Barak, may I call you just Barak? Yes, I would like that. I hope that this can be the beginning of a good friendship. Deborah heard his words. However, she did not want to give a comment at this time. Instead, she smiled slightly. At that moment, one of the servants brought in a container of water with 2 goblets. I am curious, what brings you here to the territory of the Ephraimite tribe? Deborah asked, staring straight into his eyes. Because we are at war with Jabin, Sisera, and the Canaanites. I have been trying to buy weapons from certain tribes in the south so that we can have some kind of defense against our enemies. Then Deborah thought of the situation that produced the Canaanite threat. It was more than 100 years after the death of Joshua, the son of Nun, that another Jabin, the king of the Canaanites, attacked the Hebrew tribes in Galilee and the surrounding areas. Jabin was the king of Hazor, which was renamed Harosheth Hagoyim, and the head of his army was Sisera. With his 900 chariots, Sisera took complete control of the Jezreel Valley, ravaged the countryside, taxed the Hebrews heavily, took away their blacksmiths so that they could not make any weapons, and put many of the Hebrews into hard labor. Since the regular roads were unsafe, the Hebrews had to take the longer routes around and over the mountains and hills. Hoo-wee. This is what Deborah remembered as she stood there in front of Barak. "You seem to be in deep thought, Deborah," he commented. "Is anything troubling you?" No, my mind was miles away for a little while." "Oh, a moment ago, you said that you were trying to buy weapons for your soldiers. Have you had any success in your contacts?" Deborah asked softly. "Unfortunately not," he replied, as he looked a little dejected and lowered his head. Suddenly, she felt a strong magnetic attraction to him. She moved towards him and placed her hand on top of his head and said softly, "Everything will be all right." "I thank you for the encouragement," he expressed as he placed his other hand on top of hers. "As a matter of fact, I like a kind and understanding lady like you." As he touched and held her hand, she felt the vibration move up her arm. She pulled her hand away quickly, stood up, and walked over to the large orange vase that had a green plant inside of it. Then she squeezed one of the green leaves between her fingers to hide her true feelings. "Is there something wrong, Deborah?" asked Barak, paying close attention to her reactions. "No, there's nothing wrong," she assured him. "Do you have family?" she inquired, turning around in his direction. At that moment, Barak took a sip of water from the goblet. "If you're asking, am I married? The answer is no. My wife and son died in childbirth." "Oh, I'm sorry to hear this. May peace be with their soul. Do you think you will ever get married again?" I think about it sometime. But at the other times, I'm fearful that the same thing could happen to my next wife. And this discourages me from wanting to get married again. If I get married again, it will have to wait until after the war. It seems that you might have someone in mind." Hoping to hear an honest comment, she waited for an answer. "No, I have only some admirers, but I am remaining unattached to commit more time to the training and organization of our mountain fighters. In addition, I hope there will be an end to this conflict soon so that my people and I can live normal lives as other tribes. I have a very strong feeling that during next year, the reign of terror of the notorious King Jabin will be terminated." Deborah intimated with confidence. "This is really good news, better news than what I had anticipated. Thank you, Deborah. By the way, I heard about the death of your husband by the hands of the Canaanites, and I want to express my condolences to you." "That is nice of you," That is nice of you. Deborah sat down and pulled her purple headpiece around the front of her neck. "How long have you been fighting the Canaanites?" she asked. "About 15 years. May I ask what caused you to fight the Canaanites?" "What caused me? I really don't want to talk about that," he snapped, turning his back to her. Then he lowered his face into the palm of his hands and sulked for a little while. Because Deborah didn't want to be pushy, she waited a few moments, then continued. "Perhaps it must be painful, but I think that you should talk about it. It will help you feel better," she said, touching him gently on the back of his shoulders. He turned towards her slowly, paused, placed his large hands on his hips, and looked up at her looked up into the blue sky in sorrow. Finally, he took a deep breath. "It hurts too much." Deborah could see that he wanted to shed some tears, but the tears that you like an understanding woman. "I'm trying to be just that. Talk to me, Barak. Tell me what troubles you." "It's down." "What about your mother?" Did she give up the ghost? Yes, but it was not an ordinary death that happened. Now I find myself standing here, getting ready to reveal. You don't have to feel less than a man just because you are about to pour out your heart to me. Remember, you are still mortal. His head and glanced at her with a thoughtful look on his face. Perhaps you are right, Deborah. General of the Canaanite army murdered. Barak paused. Then he took another deep breath and gritted his teeth with anger. He choked his words and labored his speech. He murdered my dear mother, a kind and gentle woman. He informed her as he pounded his fist against the wall, almost hitting a gray lizard. Deborah looked at him with concern. Barak, I'm very sorry, so sorry to hear this. Now I can understand how your loss has left you with so much grief. Grief is not the word, he said, sharply raising his voice. Well, a lot of anger then. I want Sisera to pay for the murder of my mother, and I'll get him, even if it takes me 10 more years. I can understand how you feel. Also, the Canaanites killed my husband. However, vengeance belongs to the Lord. Turning towards her, he roared again like thunder. I hope that heaven will grant me the chance to be the hand of God's vengeance. Because they want to kill him. And that might very well be. Tell me, Barak, what was the situation that led up to the murder of your mother? There was a complete silence for an entire minute. He moved not a muscle. Then Barak began to tell her what happened to his family 19 years ago when he had just turned 25. They had just completed the preparation for the Feast of Booths and had set out on their pilgrimage to the tabernacle in Shilo. They were traveling on the main road going south past the Sea of Galilee. There were also many other people on that same road going to the tabernacle. Moreover, his father and mother were traveling with him. Suddenly, they heard the hooves of camels and horses galloping towards them. The people knew that it was the Canaanite soldiers, and some tried to escape to the caves in the nearby hills. The Canaanites rushed down on them and rounded them up. General Sisera gave orders to Lieutenant Sabar and to line up the people. Form a line over here, commanded the lieutenant. The people moved slowly with resentment and with hatred in their eyes against the Canaanites. Next, the lieutenant pointed to one man. You over there, step it up, get moving. After the soldiers lined up the people, Sisera approached 10 cubits in front of his soldiers with 2 of his officers on both sides of him. They held their spears in their hands. Sisera was a dark brown-skinned man in his middle 40s with a coat of mail hanging from his broad shoulders. He wore a copper-looking helmet with a purple plume extending upward. Finally, Sisera spoke. Now, I'll tell you why I stopped you. A group of Hebrew men have been raiding Canaanite merchant caravans and seizing their property. We have a good reason to believe that they might have come to your area. If you know of these men or have seen them, I want you to turn them over to me. Turn Hebrews over to you, shouted a young man. Why should we? Because they are the sons of Belial and transgressors, and I command you. Transgressors, interrupted Barak. You place a very heavy burden of taxation around our necks, rape our women, and take our boys and girls to be burned in the fire of sacrifices to your god Baal. Now you have the gall to call those Hebrews transgressors? At that moment, Barak's mother took hold of his arms in an attempt to silence him. Yes, they are transgressors. Sisera then raised his head, seething with indignation at the defiant young man. You, come here. Then Barak stood still. Don't stand there and stare at me like a darn fool, yelled Sisera. When I give you an order, obey it, boy. Barak moved forward slowly. What do you want with me? All of a sudden, Sisera slapped Barak hard with the back of his hand, and he recoiled backwards. You have too much mouth, boy. And if you are not careful, your mouth is going to get you into a lot of trouble. Leave my son alone, yelled his father. Instantaneously, Barak's mother ran up to protect her son. Keep your hands off my son, you old brute. Get back, you wench, ordered Sisera as he jabbed her in the side of her head with the spear. As she fell to the ground, the crowd quickly rushed forward to help her. But the mounted soldiers blocked their way. Give me a second right quick. We only got a couple of pages left. Let me go take my boy to the use bathroom. Come on, let's go. Hurry up. Hurry up. Let's go beat. Let's go beat. That's my chair. That's my chair. Get out of my chair, boy. You ain't reading nothing. Get out of my chair, you pickerhead. Get out of my chair. You get over here. Pickerhead. All right. All right. Thank you. My bad. My bad. All right. Barak fell to his knees and held his mother in his arms, who was covered with blood. Then he cried, Mother, 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 don't leave me. At that moment, Deck snatched her life. Barak looked up slowly at Sisera with tears in his eyes, sobbing, I'll get you for this. I'll get you even if it takes me 10 years, Barak cried bitterly as his father pressed a cloth over her wound. I'll get you. You'll get me, huh? Where is your army? You got your chance right now. Make your move. I want to see how stupid you are. Barak just stared at him with anger. Either you are smarter than what I thought, or you are just a low-down, sniveling coward. Let's go, men, and leave these wretched Hebrews to themselves. After Barak finished telling Deborah how his mother had been murdered, he stood there before her with tears in his eyes and dried them on the sleeves of his dashiki. It is good that you are getting it all out. It will help you feel better. I suppose so. For a while there was a silence. Then Deborah spoke. Would you like something else to drink or eat, Barak? Yes, I think I'll have some tea and fruit. Do you like your tea dark? Yes. When Sarah passed by the courtyard entrance, Deborah called, Oh, Sarah, would you bring in some tea and fruit? After a short while, Sarah brought in a large tray full of refreshments, and Deborah introduced Barak to her. This is Barak, the general I mentioned to you earlier. It is a pleasure to meet you, sire, she said as she bowed and walked away slowly. I want to tell you, Barak, there will come a time in battle that you will become far more successful if you will rely on the Lord and become more spiritual, she said, with a serious look. Spiritual? What do you mean by that? I mean communing with your God by prayer, meditation, and turning into the small, subtle voice that speaks to you deep down inside, she uttered. Oh, I don't believe in that stuff. I rely on the number of my soldiers, the chariots which I don't have, and the number of spears and swords. These are the things that can break the back of the enemy. He harangued. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that word right. I've seen it multiple times. I still don't know how. I might have to look that thing up later. Harangued. Harangued. He harangued as he stood on his feet and clenched his fist to express his emotions. If you trust in God, he will work miracles in your life. I don't believe in miracles either. Why not? All creation is a miracle. Where was this miracle of God when Cicero stabbed my mother in the head? The works of God are mysterious. You cannot judge him. If we patiently seek him, he will reveal the hidden things to us in due time. Moreover, if you look at your loss in the right way, for your pain will come again. Moreover, if you look at your loss in the right way, from your pain will come again. Finally, in the process of time, you will receive a revelation so profound that it'll change your entire thinking. She further explained to him, it was by the power of God that our ancestors were saved from the Egyptians and not by the number of their soldiers and swords. This is what Moses, Joshua, and the elders taught. Well, if God has all this great power, why does he cause us to suffer under the harsh oppression of the Canaanites? He asked, moistening his lips with his tongue. That's what I mean. God does not cause. She paused and moved under the shady part of the palm tree. When BARAK followed her, she smiled with unconscious delight because she relished the attention. She continued, God does not cause mankind to suffer. Men and women cause their own suffering. Hence, they reap what they sow. This is universal law. If a person commits a crime and is punished by the court, is that person suffering for nothing? No, he deserved it, he answered. And this is the way it is with the heavenly judge. He gave his commandments to mankind and to our people, and many rejected them and committed abominations. This is what the priests, the 70 elders, and the scribes report to us from the tabernacle in the city of Shilo. The people served the Lord all the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders that outlived Joshua, who had seen all of the great works of the Lord and that he had wrought for Israel. And also all that generation was gathered unto their fathers. And there arose another generation after them that knew not the Lord, nor yet the works which he had wrought for Israel. DEBORAH, are we a part of this new generation? Yes, we are. And you will understand this after I finish. Then DEBORAH continued to quote the elders in the city of Shilo. The elders taught, and they forsook the Lord and served Baal and Ashtaroth. And the Lord gave them over into the hand of Jabin, the king of Canaan, which reigned over Hazor, the captain of whose host was Sisera, who dwelt in Harosheth. Hey, BARAK gushed. Then he yawned and drew both fists toward the direction of his dark brown eyes. Very interesting, he remarked as he smiled at her with admiration. After that, he fixed his eyes upon her with a long, silent stare. Why are you staring at me like that? She asked. It is because you are so beautiful and nice to look upon, BARAK answered in a slow, mesmerizing tone. Well, thank you, BARAK. She smiled, looking at him with a surprised glance. At that moment, he asked her softly and slowly, did anyone ever tell you that you are beautiful? She became flattered and lowered her head modestly. Yes, but that was a long time ago. My late husband used to tell me this often when he was alive. But I don't think about beauty anymore, she uttered nonchalantly. Nevertheless, she enjoyed those words coming from BARAK. DEBORAH, you are not just beautiful in your facial appearance, but also your inner beauty radiates. Beauty is just the outward appearance, she said gently as she turned turned her head away, feeling a sense of delight. When I speak of beauty, Deborah, I mean also your inward beauty. I can feel your tenderness and warmth. I can feel your tenderness and the warmth of your womanly presence. You can? How about that? Oh man, you can. Oh, you can, Barack. Oh, my neck hurt. Oh boy, you can. When I speak of beauty, Deborah, I mean also your inward beauty. I can feel your tenderness and the warmth of your womanly presence. You can? You can, she asked, with an enthusiastic smile on her face. But let's not talk about me. He became silent again. Well, can we talk about your deceased husband? She hesitated and said slowly, yes. What was he like? He was gentle and compassionate. In what way do you mean? She answered without hesitation. He recognized my abilities and he encouraged me to develop and use them in spite of the fact that I am a woman in a role that has been always held by men. Are you referring to your ability to explain the laws to other people and to advise and speak to groups of people? He inquired while touching the frond of a small palm tree. Yes, I am. But how did the people from the area know that you had these abilities? Oh, that is a long story. At first, men, but mostly women, would come to our fields to buy fruit, vegetables, and other products. When the ladies came, we would sit and talk for a long time about women problems and the family. Slowly, the word got around that I was very helpful to many. Then more and more ladies came to seek my advice, and some skeptical men came as well. Deborah, it is strange to have a woman take a major role in public matters. Yes, but as I said, the women came to me first and of their tribes. You must understand that the judges of the various tribes were handing down decisions according to what they thought was right in their own eyes, and not according to the interpretations handed down by Moses and Joshua. Moreover, some judges and elders corrupted themselves by taking bribes, by favoring the rich and powerful and trampling on the poor. Deborah, I can understand what you mean because there are some judges in my tribe who are guilty of that very same thing. Barak, I want your honesty. What do you think of my work? Barak thought a moment. Well, I'll be honest. I'll be honest with you, Deborah. In our times, it is not the custom to have a woman doing the work of a man. However, at this time, there is no king in Israel, no unity, and very few learned men. Furthermore, our people are suffering under the oppression of the Canaanites, and most men do what they think is right in their own eyes. In view of this, your work is very helpful, and I welcome it as the need of the times. Thank you, Barak, for being very truthful with me. I needed to know this. Well, honesty is my policy. Barak, I want you to fully understand you will never completely remove Sisera's powerful army from the northern territories until our people remove the abominations from our communities, which are distasteful before God. I believe that when we make right our society, the Lord will remove the enemy right from our midst. This means that we shall be victorious in battle. Now, in order to achieve this, I need for you to help catch the lawbreakers who run and hide among the other tribes and bring them to justice. When we root out the bad things in our villages and cities, then we will have peace, love, prosperity, and unity. To accomplish this, it is our responsibility, not the responsibility of others. Can I get your support concerning this matter? Barak lowered his head and thought for a moment and then looked up. Yes, you have my complete support. Also, I am in favor of maintaining a peaceful and orderly society. I am against all robbers and murderers, whether they are Canaanites or Hebrews, Barak explained. Excuse me. Thank you. Oh, Barak, I think that it would be a good idea if you would stop by the tabernacle in Shilo and get a certificate of authority from the high court. Ask the elder Ariel. He was a close associate of my uncle. This certificate would make you a bona fide officer of the court. With your position as prince and commander of the Northern Army and my recommendation, I don't think you will have any problems obtaining it. After that, Barak asked her a question about the war. When do you think that the final battle will take place between King Jabin and us? She paused. Believe it will be about a year from now. Can you give me a definite month? No, she replied, but I can definitely tell you this. As the time approaches, it will become clearer and it will be revealed to me. When this happens, I'll send for you. I want to remind you, Barak, that to defeat Sisera, you'll need more than chariots. We'll see, he said softly. Well, it is time for me to leave. Oh, by the way, may I call on you again, Barak? May I call on you again? Barak waited for an answer. Deborah, may I call on you again? He repeated louder. She remained silent. Deborah, are you going to make a beggar out of a man of noble birth? They exchanged glances. She swallowed his words hard and attempted to speak. You can call on me again as long as it is important business, she said as she looked at him scantly with longing and inviting eyes. Important business, he repeated. Hearing her comment, Barak seemed confused. His eyes blinked rapidly, and he continued to speak. I know what I like, and I know what I want, and I want you. Don't be too hasty, Barak. As a widow living outside of my father's house, I think that I should have something to say about this. Barak, are you going to deny me my choice? He turned towards her and answered, No, I am not that low. In my desire for you, I will not violate your rights. However, I must inform you right now that I intend to pursue you and pursue until you change your mind. She looked at him with amazement. I see that you are a very determined man. Yes, I am. This is the only way I can win battles and save my nephew, Joseph, from the hellhole he is in. May peace be with you, Deborah, he said as he departed with self-confidence. After he mounted his horse, Deborah waved at him with mixed feelings. As Deborah sat on her bench, she wondered and was doubtful about the viable relationship with Prince Barak. He was a man of high social standards in his tribe and the commander of the militia in his region. As a man of considerable means, he projects a strong, handsome, muscular appearance, and he had a nice smile that is magnetic. On the other hand, she had at least 3 reasons why not to become emotionally involved. There was still the matter of the letter that she was expecting from her brother-in-law, Caleb, which could change her marital status, her marital situation. My bad, excuse me. Also, she had a wick business and judicial duties. Her husband was killed by Canaanites, and if the same thing happened to Barak, this would only increase her emotional pain. In view of the fact that Deborah was a spiritual woman, Barak's rejection of her spiritual advice did not sit well with her. Therefore, she concluded that she would not get her hopes up. Now, Barak was on his way to the city of Shilo to obtain the certificate of authority which Deborah had requested. And that's it. That is chapter 1 and chapter 2. Chapter 1 and chapter 2 of Barak and Deborah United, Love, Freedom, and Spirituality by Mary L. Windsor and Dr. Rudolph R. Windsor. So, yeah, my connection held up good today. So we'll come back later on today, man. We'll do 2 lives today. We'll come back later on today with chapter 3 and chapter 4. Chapter 3 and chapter 4. So thank you for the like, whoever gave it. Thank you for the like. Thank you to all the new subscribers. Welcome, 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 everybody. Welcome to Reading with Shilo. Welcome. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope we keep pushing. We're gonna see what we can learn and grow from. If there's anything that we can pull from the BARAK and DEBORAH. You know, so far there's a lot of stuff. I heard say, hey, you can. I can see it in my mind, boy. I can see it in my mind. I can see a woman saying, oh, you can, huh? Yeah, I know I said some stuff like that. A girl had told me some stuff about, oh, you can, huh? I know what I was thinking when I said it. Yeah, right. Whatever. Hey, sell that wolf ticket to somebody else, baby. That's how I feel. Sell that wolf ticket to somebody else. But so far, so good. I really was procrastinating on reading this book because I really didn't want to read this book. It didn't sound interesting. But after reading the what was, the forward and other stuff in the beginning of the book, it sounded a little better. It sounded a little better. But we're doing good. So far, so good. So far, so good. But we'll keep pushing. We'll keep pushing, and Lord spare life, and Lord willing, I'll see you later on. I'll see you at the next edition to Reading with Shilo when we get into chapter 3 and chapter 4. Chapter 3 and chapter 4. BARAK and DEBORAH united. But until then, man, shalom. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Shalom, shalom.